I would like to thank the colleagues of the Social Democrats for proposing and moving this motion, and I'll propose an amendment later to the government amendment designed to do two things. Firstly, I'm happy to move. Firstly, that government ought to allow for Labour's Competition and Consumer Protection Unfair Prices Bill 2023 to pass. That bill was published in 2023. It was debated at second stage here in the House in late May. Frankly, there were fewer in attendance at that debate today than there are this morning. Secondly, the amendment is designed to propose that instead of using over €700 million to cut the rate of VAT on hospitality in budget 2026, to use these hundreds of millions to reduce child poverty with a targeted second tier of child benefit and indeed other measures to provide income supports to households. They're the choices this House is going to have to make over the next couple of months. Hand up the kids to give them every chance of a good life, rather than a handout to Supermacs and McDonald's. And now, I won't rehearse the figures on how the price of basic staples we all need have risen week on week over the last 3 years especially. They are on the record. The early price rises of the groceries on the shelves at the start of this cost of living crisis were quite easily explained. Post-COVID demand followed by war in Europe. And we all understood that, and we still continue to understand that. However, what's not sufficiently clear is why the price of the things we need and take for granted are still rising endlessly. While input costs are under control, some of them have plateaued and indeed come down, and when big businesses operating in the supermarket sector in Ireland continue to post as we understand it, exceptional profits, and this is the point. If it walks, talks and acts like price gouging at the checkout, it may very well be. Now, the question then is, what do we as a legislature do about it? Now, I provided one solution. It's contained in the bill I referred to. Make the huge multinational supermarkets operating here publish their profits. Now, the bill was published in May 2023. It was debated at second stage in late May of this year, just a few weeks ago. And its core idea, and some of the text, is essentially referenced in this very welcome motion from Social Democrat colleagues. The government has delayed its advancement to committee by a year. Now, the question is, Minister, why did your government decide to do that when in May 2023, in response to Labour's campaigning on high grocery prices, the then Minister for Enterprise, Simon Coveney, said he would do just that? He's on record as saying that this is a good idea, but you have done nothing since. Now, he said if price rises continued, he would hold the supermarkets in. He'd bring them to heel and enact his own legislation to make them publish their profits in Ireland and give the CCPC more market surveillance and enforcement powers. Now, I heard Minister Dillon on the News at 1 on RTE radio last Friday. Now, he said all the right things. He's well briefed. Now, he said this too, though, and I quote, "I think what we need now is the evidence to take the appropriate action, and that process is underway." What process is underway? None, I would venture. Now, like ministers, I like to make my decisions based on evidence. So you've said you will ask the CCPC to do a rerun of the analysis it did on grocery prices back in mid-2023, the one that managed to conclude somehow that there was no evidence of price gouging and excessive pricing in Ireland, even though it couldn't have possibly made a conclusive determination on that because it had no information of any quality whatsoever on the very profits the companies they were supposed to be examining were making. Now, riddle me that. This is the Father Ted approach to the cost of living crisis in Ireland. The equivalent of, well, can anything be said for another mass? Let's do another report. A fool's errand. Now, without clear information, without compelling the supermarkets to publish their profits, we will have no reliable data, as we don't know their margins, we'll not know how they price products, and hard-pressed punters continue to be kept in the dark, just how the big chains want it, and all sustained by a government that won't rock the boat in a situation where there is also a real risk that the very limited competition in the supermarket sector we see here in Ireland could lead to abuses of dominant positions, with both the business environment and consumers ending up paying the price. Now, the proposals I made in our bill are modest. The proposals made by Social Democrat colleagues are modest. They're realistic, they're reasonable, they're pragmatic. Now, I wouldn't for a minute overstate what its provisions would achieve, but it would bring greater transparency. It would help us to stand up for the customer once and for all, and help make major businesses in this country more accountable. And it baffles me why any government would be hostile to that.